Yo, what is good? Welcome back to Punk Rock 101. This is the video series about punk rock music and punk rock advice. This week, I actually have my first guest on the show, my buddy Matt Brasch, who plays in the band The Wonder Years. He also plays in a project called Cold Climate, as well as writes original music, so make sure to go check out all of his stuff. We talk a little bit about being a multi-instrumentalist and how it not only helps you with your own songwriting, but it can also help you communicate with your band members. Being able to play a little bit of every instrument in a rock band is definitely a good thing, so let's get into it. Let's do a little backtrack of how you and I met real quick to start this off before we talk about being a multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't remember what year it was. It was probably 2017 actually, because
Sounds about right.
yeah, it was the year I had the Donk, which was the like DIY venue space.
Yeah, place is awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I missed that spot, but that's how we met because you came through with Cold Climate. You know, I guess we hung out that night or something. I think that's what happened after the show. Everyone hung out.
Yeah, we stayed at your place.
That's right.
You were
Yeah,
gracious enough to house us for the night.
yeah, that's right. And then we got to talking, and then after that, we ended up doing the Shakeout record with you, Balance the Imbalance, down in your basement that you're in right now.
That was a good time.
And then since then, we've done other stuff too. We wrote a song together.
We
actually.
did, yeah. I guess it was, it was like mid 2020, I guess at this point.
It was,
So
yeah,
a
it was
couple
during,
years ago. Yeah.
yeah, it was during the beginning of the pandemic. So actually, I'll link that in the description just because of the YouTube video, because I feel like we haven't shared that one in a while. So today, I want to talk a little bit about being a multi-instrumentalist and kind of just how that affects your songwriting, because I mean, you know, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, you're a multi-instrumentalist. I know you'd write a ton of songs, and I get a lot of questions about this, actually, like people being like, I only know how to play guitar, or I only know how to play bass, and I always kind of say, like, just kind of knowing your way around the other instruments definitely, I think, is helpful.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think it's like almost more important, at least with the kind of music that we're making, to be mildly proficient in a lot of things than just like a ripper on one instrument.
So let me ask you, which instrument did you start with?
So I started out on the drums, and actually the
Yeah.
drum set behind me is the first drum set I ever got, and I still play it all the time.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I actually have the same drum set too. Actually, this kick drum behind me, I bought it when I was like 14. Like, it's the same drum set that I originally had. So how old were you when you started playing drums?
Started playing drums when I was 10.
10. And was that in like school, or were you did you just pick it up on your own? Like, how did you pick it up?
Yeah, I started doing the school band thing. My mom played in cover bands and stuff when I was younger, so I was always interested in playing an instrument.
Oh.
And by the time fourth grade rolls around, that's when everyone starts playing instruments in school. So I picked the drums, started doing that, and then eventually started taking private lessons. And it's the only instrument I'm actually like formally trained on. Everything else I've just learned by ear and trial and error.
When you started playing drums, obviously you were in the band, but were you also trying to play like rock music too? Was that like?
Oh yeah, like you start out doing all the classical stuff and jazz and all that, but yeah, I mean, my heart's always been rock and roll. I mean, I love all that other stuff too, and I'm so glad that I learned it, because you can definitely take a bunch of those elements and bring them into different styles, which is great.
What was next? Like, you started playing drums at 10, started playing a little bit, maybe you got some songs down. Like, I don't know, what were like the first songs you were learning? Like
Actually Bush 16 Stone and Razorblade Suitcase.
Oh,
I
sick.
played along to those records a lot. Third Eye Blind, but yeah, also Green Day records and Blink records, but they were a little bit harder to start out on because the parts were just faster. I didn't have the chops to play them. Came a little bit later, you know.
Got you. Yeah.
But yeah, but that's how I mainly learned drums. I mean, I did take formal lessons and stuff, but as far as playing kid, it was just kind of listening to songs and learning how to play them.
Yeah, same too. What did you pick up next?
So next thing I picked up was guitar. I actually went over to a buddy of mine's house in middle school when we were jamming. He was playing guitar, I was playing drums. We just took a little break, and I picked up his guitar, and he showed me how to play a bar chord. I think the first song I learned was like "Fly" by Lenny Kravitz, maybe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is a pretty rad song. But yeah, just learned how to play some bar chords, and then I learned how to learn songs through that, because if you can play one bar chord, you can at least like get through a song. It's not going to be like the most flashy thing, but you can figure it out.
Well, it's also kind of sick that you learned bar chords before you learned power chords, because I feel like everyone learns power chords first, because you only need 2 fingers, and then you could just like do the same kind of thing.
Oh
like,
yeah, I mean, it was pretty much
now.
like power chords at that point, though, because I couldn't put enough pressure down. You know what I mean? I didn't have the muscle in my hands yet. But,
yeah. So all right, so that's guitar. So was that like around a couple years after?
So that was maybe like 7th or 8th grade. Soon after I picked up my buddy's guitar and learned how to play a couple things, I just ended up buying like one of those cheap Squire Strat starter pack things.
Those are the best. They had the little
You know,
amp and the cable and everything. Yeah.
and they're actually pretty great for how low the price point is. They're awesome.
Oh, for sure. Since you knew kind of how to play the drums, did it make it easier to play the guitar?
It definitely helped me as far as rhythmic aspect goes. Like I already had kind of like a metronome engraved in my brain at that point and had knowledge of structure and things like that. So that helps. But as far as like being proficient on guitar, bass, or piano or singing, it took a while. Like I'm still learning a lot when it comes to that stuff. I've never looked at myself as like an amazing guitar player, but I've always kind of been like a big picture kind of guy. So I'm not a guy who's going to like shred and rip a bunch of solos and things like that. But I can write a song.
Yeah, I mean, I think that more importantly, I know we were kind of saying earlier, but before learning how to like become some like shredder, it's almost like being self-aware of what you want to get out of music. Right. And then being like, hey, I just want to learn how to write songs. And it's like you need to be a certain level of like good at everything to do that. Like there's some people that like, hey, I want to be a metal shredder, and that's amazing if that's like what drives you to play music, but like not everyone has to be that.
Exactly. I've always been really intrigued by like indie and alternative rock and punk rock and things like that. So a lot of those genres, I mean, you can get very in depth with that stuff if you want to, and pretty rippy. But like if you want to just write the bass line of a song, you can get away with having a general knowledge. And then if you have a buddy that's really good at guitar, just have him come over, do that part. As long as you can express what you're hearing and what you want them to play, then it's I don't know. I've always been a big fan of getting an idea down and then having somebody who's really great come in and execute the final thing.
How is being a multi-instrumentalist affect your songwriting? Do you feel like it helps your creative process? Do you feel like it hinders it? For me, for example, like I'm backwards of you. I started on guitar, and then I had a buddy that had a drum set, and I'd go over to his house, and I'd start banging on the drums, and it was pretty easy actually for me to like pick it up and just like imitate what was going on. And it was probably around the same age too. Like I started playing guitar at 10, and then I started playing drums around like 12.
That's funny.
So it's like same idea, but for me, I know like when I write something, I kind of hear the whole thing in my head already.
I'm the same way. Ideally, I like to start with acoustic guitar and vocals. So I try to write like lyrics and vocal melodies and the general chords all together.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when all those things are married, it's a lot easier to build around it. Sometimes it doesn't happen though. Sometimes you're stuck on a lyrical idea and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna move past this, come back to it.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I think it's super helpful being a multi-instrumentalist, because if you get stuck on a part on guitar or whatnot, you move on to bass or you move on to drums, and then you write something on there, and then sometimes that influences how you're going to write on another instrument. So I think it definitely helps to get you out of a rut if you can play multiple things, because you think of different pieces of the puzzle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like you could write a guitar part and then you put a drum beat to it that you didn't really think about before. Like maybe you thought it was like something straighter, but then you come up with something a little more swinging or something, and it completely changes the part. Like,
oh, exactly. Yeah.
So I know, like, obviously you write your own stuff, right? Like you just put out an EP. So in that, you played everything on it.
Yeah.
But then you write for the Wonder Years, and you're one of 6.
Correct.
So when obviously your writing has to like be a little bit different.
It's a little bit. So yeah, I mean, the cool thing about Wonder Years is every time we do a song, it's a completely different way and a different process. And, we're writing different parts at different times. So sometimes I'll come in with a full-fledged demo of like every single instrument. I usually don't write any vocal melodies or lyrics just because I don't want to influence Dan to think a certain way about it. I want him to have like full creative reign of that. But yeah, I'll write a full demo, bring it in, and then people tell me what parts they like or don't like, and we'll either use the whole thing and change things around, or we'll literally use one little section of it, scrap the rest of it, and then write the rest of the song around that. But I mean, by the time it's done and reworked like 50 times, it ends up being a completely different thing than you had pictured in the beginning, but it's always better.
That's cool. It's something I definitely I've struggled with, because I always feel like I hear the end product, and it's so hard sometimes to be like, okay. And I'm also really like bad at saying like, I kind of like my thing a little better.
Yeah. There's a give and take with that. Cause I mean, sometimes if it's something you truly, truly are into, you got to stand strong. But at the same point, if other people have ideas, I think it's the thing with time too. As you get older, or at least with me, I've kind of just let go a little bit more. It's not always the easiest, but even if you're bummed at first, the song, as long as you're writing with other people that you trust as songwriters, will most likely become a better song.
Yeah, that's true. Well, dude, I don't want to keep you too long, so I appreciate you hopping on. I think this was maybe informative to people watching of like try to learn how to play every instrument just a little bit, even like or good enough to do the thing you want to do on it.
Yeah, because even if you're not recording your own songs in a recording program or whatever, even having the most basic knowledge of another instrument makes it that much easier to communicate to your drummer or your guitarist, your bass player, what you're hearing and what you'd like them to accomplish.
Yeah, that's true. I couldn't agree with you more. Anything you want to leave anybody with? I know you have new music out. You're going on tour. You're doing things.
Got a lot going on, which is exciting because the past couple of years hasn't been so much. But yeah, so I just put out an EP on January 14th called Days, Months, Years, Blood, Sweat, Tears. On Bandcamp, you can find it at mattbrasch.bandcamp.com. And I am donating 25% of the proceeds to musiccares.com, which is an organization that helps musicians through hard times, whether it be through the pandemic or if they need medical assistance or whatnot. Yeah, I would recommend getting it there. But if you have Spotify or Apple Music, it's up in all those places too. And then, yeah, I leave for a tour with the Wonder Years. It starts on February 5th in Portland, Oregon, and it's 7 weeks long, and we're doing our second and third record all the way through every single night. So we'll be playing the upsides in Suburbia. I've given you all, now I'm nothing. It's going to be a marathon of a show. So
bring me right back to 11th grade, bro.
Yep.
That's awesome, dude. I'll link all that below. Dude, thank you again for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.